Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Rapid Recap here at Inside Nebraska. With me, as always, is Tim Verghese. I'm Zack Carpenter. We're at Hawks Championship Center again. Tim, 5 practices deep for the Huskers in the fall camp, and now 2 serious injuries to report back on. We've already seen a bunch of smaller injuries like Prince William Yellen and Marquise Buford banging knees. Nothing serious. They sat out for a practice. Same thing with Jalen Lloyd sitting out for a practice. We've got small injuries, like bumps and bruises from camp, but today was the first pair of significant ones, and that is a season-ending torn ACL for both Roger Gradney and offensive tackle Teddy Prochazka. Gradney came to Nebraska as an athlete, officially listed as an athlete. He was actually the very first commitment in the 2024 class out of Texas, and he never wavered from that commitment. It was like February 2023 when he committed and stayed through all the way until signing, and he was moved from the DB room to the linebackers room. Sometime in the spring or over the summer, he tore his ACL at the Big Red Preview, Saturday's open practice. Was carted off the field, and Teddy Prochazka, competing for the starting left tackle spot with Turner Corcoran, came on last year. When Turner Corcoran got hurt and started the last 6 games, he tore his ACL during Monday's practice. So a couple serious injuries. One to someone, a young talent who was probably not going to see much playing time this year, but hampers his development. Then another huge piece to left tackle.
Massive piece. Yeah, I mean, starting with Teddy, I think real quick, obviously just, third serious injury for him. This isn't the same ACL that he previously tore, but the other one. Still, regardless, with his size at this point in his career, you have to wonder what it means for the future. They said today they're rallying around him. They think he's going to fight back, but, I think this does probably put a bit of his future in doubt. Obviously, this season is a wash for him, and he's out for this year. Obviously puts that left tackle position in doubt. Not necessarily in doubt, I think now it's officially Turner's. But and there's going to be some competition there. Tyler Kanak and a couple other people, and they've got some competition.
Garikatula might be getting some shot at that left spot. No, I think he spent time as the second team left tackle last spring, maybe in the fall, until they got a little more healthy, I believe, as a true freshman. He was never gonna play significantly as a freshman unless he had to. Second year, you still probably look at third year for a freshman to come in as a left tackle. I mean, it's the second, third most important position on offense behind quarterback, and it's probably left tackle right after that. But yeah, Turner Corcoran and Teddy were locked in a battle for a starting left tackle for this year. I mean, Turner was the number one LT at Saturday's practice. I think they were sort of going back and forth competing, which was surprising to me. I thought I had Teddy sort of penciled in, if not in pen, as the starter after his success last season, and now Turner is looking like that guy. And I mean, it's not going to make a lot of fans feel at ease, because Turner Corcoran, like Bryce Benhart, before last season, has gotten his fair share of criticism.
And he's had his struggles, but I think with Turner here, I think if you have any reason for optimism, it's that the staff is stuck with him. It's the fact that he's come back from this injury. It's the fact that athletically, there's still there's a reason he was ranked as high as he was coming out of high school. There's still all that athleticism in there, all that natural talent in there, that if he can tap back into, and this is year 3 for him under Raiola, if he's fully just committed, you could hopefully see some improvement. We saw it last year with Bryce Benhart. Potentially could see the same type of leap with Corcoran this year. Pretty much the same. They're 1 year apart, and this would be that same timeline where this year he kind of finally makes that jump that you would hope to see a few years ago. But regardless, you hope to see that jump this year. And I think, if obviously, they're not going to play him if he's not playable, but behind him, I think the depth's obviously a lot more in question, but there's optimism about Tyler Kanak. This is a guy that the staff has raved about since the spring. Even on the recruiting side of things, is a guy that's constantly involved, a guy that is just in the building a lot, the guy that the staff really likes.
Got in a fight at the Saturday practice, was involved in a little
feisty,
fall
which
camp
the staff
fight.
loves. I'm sure the staff really likes seeing that edge out of him. Yeah, I think they've got some at least some questions there on the offensive line now, and I'm curious to see what happens there. With Gradney, it's like you said, you know, he's a guy that is needed some time. You know, obviously he was not going to play a whole lot this year besides special teams. And, you know, I spent a lot of time, I've covered him in Texas.
I was going to say, yeah, you have background with him.
Even before I covered this program, you know, he was a guy that I was in on for a while. I've seen in a couple different events. And, you know, he was a guy that coming out of high school wasn't really set on what he wanted to be at Nebraska. Initially thought he was coming here to play receiver. Obviously, that was clarified. And he realized he was initially coming in as a DB, then got here and moved to the linebacker room, which, you know, writing on the wall was kind of always there that he'd eventually spin down. But he doesn't have a whole lot of experience there. You know, his high school experience is at receiver and DB, and so this kind of hurts his development. He needed some on-field time, just being able to feel what it's like in the box, being able to read, you know, just the offense from a linebacker position. This helps his IQ. You know, he's going to spend a lot more time in the film room, and you know,
that's what I was going to say. If we're going to spin zone it,
if you're going to spin zone this helps his mental progression for sure. But there's nothing like real reps, and he really needed a year of just real linebacker reps, and now, you know, he's out until at least the spring. And, you know, at this point too, for a guy like him, he needs a spring, and who knows how much of a spring he's going to get with, you know, the timeline for recovery from this injury. Yeah,
we've seen now a few ACLs in this program, and made Saturday night, I think Monday's Teddy injury, I think, happened on grass and on the practice field. Saturday was turf injury. We see that. Yeah, good God, I'm not going to open up that can of worms, because there's going to be a lot of takes. And
the good news, grass is coming. Grass is coming.
2 years, 3 years, the 2026 season. Grass and turf expert Troy Dannon. At Big Ten, I'd say that jokingly, but like at Big Ten Media Days, he talked about grass, and it's like he sounded like he went and got a master's degree in the field of grass, the field of grass study, pun intended. But as we move on, I think there's only one more thing we wanted to hit on from today's pressers. Obviously, that's the big news. We also had Terrence Knighton, John Butler, the new DB's coach, and Deshaun Singleton, Cam Lenhart, Malcolm Hartzog, and MJ Sherman were the players available. You can check out the player press conference videos on our YouTube channel, and the John Butler and Terrence Knighton full presser videos. You just click over on our channel. But Terrence Knighton, I mean, this staff, I mean, Tony White, Knighton, players, like, they're not bashful. They've said multiple times, they've tripled down, doubled down, tripled, quadrupled down that we want to be the best defense in the country. And what that means is I think it's ambiguous, because it's like, what does that mean? Does that mean you have to hit your 40 sacks, 20 takeaways goal? Like, do you have to be number total one in these different
averages?
Yeah, like, or do we just want to be, like, when you think of the nation's elite defenses, Nebraska is one of the very first few mentioned. It's whatever. It's what, beauty's in the eye of the beholder or whatever.
I think ultimately the goal is just, when you think elite defense, they want people to think Nebraska.
That's what that's sort of the impression. I'm pretty easy to get that sort of takeaway from it all. But in order to do that, they are going to have to take away the ball, which we've talked about that on our last rapid recap video. They're going to have to be more disruptive with sacks, and they talk more about that, what we talked about last time, getting home with four-man pass rushes, so that you can sort of help a secondary that's going to be led by a brand new guy, new philosophies, and you have Tommy Hill on one side locking down an island, and then still that number 2 corner position is up in the air. But actually, this is something that I know our subscribers, readers, watchers have suggested, is Marquise Buford actually at Saturday's practice was repping as a corner. He was the number 1 or number 2 cornerback, but Tommy Hill wasn't practicing. He was limited with a very minor tweak of something. But yeah, Marquise Buford sliding over from safety to corner. And Malcolm Hartzog today talked about him. He's playing free safety now, right? So I don't know if you had thoughts on the Buford defensive back, because that still is the number 1 question on this defense when we think about it, is that who's going to be opposite Tommy Hill, similar to how before Tommy had his breakout year, who's going to be opposite Quentin Newsome.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Like, it remains a big question. Buford can fit that role. He just hasn't played corner in a while.
Since high school, right?
Even dating back to high school, he's even more of a safety for part of it. So it's been a while since he's done that. So curious to see what happens there again, and also like what the timeline looks like for Bly Hill. Not just coming back from this injury, but when's he ready to play? Because before the injury, it felt all but set that he was going to be that guy. And then I think the question too remains like, this staff seems to really like Jeremiah Charles, really good athlete, a fun athlete that they really believe in. How much can he give you this year? How much can you get from him? Can he step up? Because I mean, you're walking into that week 2 Colorado game. You need depth at corner. Like that again. It's not just Travis Hunter anymore. Like they've got weapons. They've got real wide receivers out there that can punish you, that are like threats. And Nebraska's going to need to be on their P's and Q's at that point. Will they be? Is I think the big question for this defense going into the season.
It's just that game is loaded with intrigue for a billion different reasons, right? But I mean, if you look at it stylistically, matchup wise, it's like Colorado's offensive line has at least four new transfers. They're going to be starters, maybe 5, but I think at least 4. That's going to be their weakness early in the season, going against a Nebraska defensive line that is inarguably the strength of the defense and arguably the strongest position on the entire team. And conversely, Nebraska's secondary, other than Tommy at the corner positions, it has weakness, question marks, whatever label you want to put on it. And Colorado's strengths are going to be at the skill positions at quarterback and the receiver spots. So it's going to be, I mean, I know it's August 6th, so we could talk about that for a lot longer if we wanted to, but I just keep getting more like randomly excited about that. Every time you bring it up on this video or on our rapid recaps, it's like, oh yeah, we get to see that, and like it's going to be here before you know it. But I don't know if there's anything else that stood out about from the press conference today.
Real quick on Knight, and I think something that was notable, they talk about getting home a little more, Jamari Butler's up 30 pounds, Cam Leonard's up a couple pounds, Prince Will's up a couple pounds, and they mentioned, Knighton mentioned, the big thing with Butler and Cam Leonard specifically is now those guys are going to be on the field first and second down. You can keep them on the edge, and that's big. Those are 2 of the better pass rushers on the team, if not the 2 best pass rushers on the team. And, they're not just third down situational, like, pin your ears back anymore. They can pin their ears back on first and second down. You can keep them out there. They have a little more flexibility. I think what you're starting to see, just between the way Knighton talks about his room, the way he's recruiting in that room, he really wants all 3, even that 4th spin down spot, to be interchangeable. He wants those guys on the line to be able to line the ball. He talked about that with Nash. Nash being able to line up all over the place, which makes sense considering how slim he is at this point. Ty is going to be that guy in the middle this year, it feels like. But
it was similar to Ty Robinson, the way they talked about him last year going into the fall.
It feels like the roles have completely switched.
Yeah. It was like, we're going to use Ty all over the place. Like, they line him up at 9 technique, like all over. And then Nash, I mean, he said he's been using him, lining him up, Nash up on the outside, inside, like 3 tech and all that. So it's interesting.
But they want that interchangeable D-line is what they're kind of recruiting to, and what they're kind of building this room to ultimately be is like, you're already thinking what life looks like after Ty and Nash. It's like, it's a lot of these guys that occupy those like versatile frames. Sua, you've got Keona Davis, who can do a lot of similar things. He got some praise today.
We talked about Sua Lefotu, and Keona Davis got a comparison to Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. It was just a physical comparison, like size-wise, but anytime you throw the Ndamukong Suh comparison in a headline, we always appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And, he's a guy that, Keona caught our attention in June camps, just a guy that, just off the eyes, like there's a very few people on this roster that can stack up eye to eye with Ty Robinson and just off rip. Like the moment he stepped on campus, he could do that. And now he's already added some weight, looks the part.
A lot of weight. A lot of weight. 6'5", 235 listed on his recruiting as a senior when he signed. Now he's 6'5", 270.
Yeah, impressive. And looks the part for sure. Curious to see how much he contributes. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, but I think you're going to see him on the field this year. I think he's one of the few D-line freshmen you're going to see. The other D-line freshman they kind of touched on today was David Hofkin, the 22-year-old out of Germany. He's on campus. If anyone, I know there were some questions out there because there hadn't been an official update, but he is enrolled. He's on campus, visas, everything's set. But yeah, that's a guy that he's going to take some time to kind of get settled in. Knighton kind of mentioned he's working to catch up to the speed of the game, but he's conditioning-wise, physical-wise, he's in the best shape possible. It's just more so just adapting to the speed of college football, especially compared to, he was playing in a German football league, which,
Yeah, it's so. I mean, you get solid international prospects, but once you're here, it's like, I mean, some of the high school prospects obviously have to take some time adjusting to the speed of the game. I mean, you see that at all spots, so it's nothing surprising or crazy. No one's expecting David Huffkin to play a major role in his first year. He's 6'7", 255, has some really exciting, explosive, athletic traits. I mean, he can broad jump from here to the goalpost, essentially. His wingspan's even longer, so there's some exciting things about him as an athlete.
But I think you will see with him being 22, and there is only limited space for him to add more to his frame. This isn't a weight room type development. This is more like an on-field development. I think you see his development happen a little faster just because he is older. He's a smarter guy. He understands the game. I talked to him, before he enrolled for like 30 minutes just to get his story. I'm going to put that up eventually. Just transcribing is taking a second because it's with a German accent over a phone.
I have stories from 2 years ago that I never finished because I didn't want to transcribe a 3-hour interview.
But I promise that David Hoffkin's story will be out at some point. But I did want to make the point, talking to him, he coached for a couple years. When he kind of stepped away from football, he stepped away during COVID because he didn't think the football journey would make, like coming to America, like he thought that dream was out of the window. So he coached for a little bit. So he's coming into this with probably a deeper understanding of the game than most freshmen, just off the strength of being 22 years old and having coached the position in the past. So he's coming in a little smarter than you would expect. I think you watch him develop a little faster than you would expect. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he has like a James Williams type breakout towards the end of the year, but in the back half it's like, hey, who's 53 coming off the edge?
Or some plays drawn up specifically for him.
Right. So I'm really curious to see what we get out of Hoffkin, if anything, this year.
Well, I did not know that about the him coaching for 2 years. Was it flag football?
No, just in the leagues, like the high school, the leagues
so he's
in
like
Germany.
A player coach, essentially.
Pretty much.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. We're gonna
eventually
here and he's gonna start writing up that right now. You're not even allowed to leave the facility until you start working on that. Because I want to read it. And one day, whether it's tomorrow, next Tuesday, the Tuesday after that, Wednesday after that, you can read Tim's story on David Huffkin at InsideNebraska.com. I encourage you guys to go to our website to see and hear more from today's press conference with, again, Terrence Knighton, John Butler, which Steve Marek will have a story on Butler later this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and Deshaun Singleton, he's back on the field. He met with the media for the first time in nearly a year. It's going to be really exciting to get to see him back on the field. He was running with the ones at Saturday's practice, so one of those guys that we've not that we forget about. We're just like, oh yeah, all right, he's back. If he can regain the form pre-injury that he had last year, he was probably my personal favorite, or one of them on the defense to watch.
He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, physically aggressive and assertive, and he was part of that new era, the new culture of like, we're gonna hit, we're not gonna be scared about it. Like you saw it from the Minnesota game, on the entire defense, you saw it from the Minnesota game all the way to the end. So again, we're gonna get out of here, but encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel so you can get all of our press conference footage, all of our rapid recap analysis after these pressers, and our practice highlight videos. You get those videos dropped directly into your feed. We got Nebraska volleyball practice highlights, Nebraska football highlights from Saturday, and we got another one coming up on Friday for the next open window of practice. So again, encourage you guys to subscribe to our channel and get all of those videos dropped directly into your feed. So for Tim Verghese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.